Hey guys, my name is Masud. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be touching on a very crucial topic, and that is how to reduce your risk as a remote investor. Now, a remote investor in my books is someone who invests at least further than 1 hour's drive from where they live. And as you can probably imagine, doing so probably leaves you in an uncertain environment because you don't really know what's going on. And you probably won't be able to access your property as quickly as possible because it's so far away. Therefore, you will be under risk, and you will have to leave your property in the hands of someone else, possibly a letting agent. So in this video, I wanted to just highlight a few ways that you can possibly reduce your risk and make your investment go further. So the first way that we can actually reduce our risk is to buy at the right price. Now, buying at the right price involves us having a thorough understanding of what to actually pay for a property. Now, to actually get this knowledge, we have to do a lot of research. Once we've chosen a location of investment, we can actually just go into a website like Rightmove and look at the sold prices within the last 2 years of the particular property that we're after. Once we have an understanding of what to actually pay for, the next thing I'd probably do is speak to local agents and then speak to local investors about their particular knowledge on how much to actually pay for properties. And once we actually know that, we can actually backtrack and think about, okay, now we can actually see if we're going to get a discount or not. The reason why you want to buy at a good price is because if there's a change in the market, you know that you're safe because you've actually made money on the buy already. Now, the next thing that I can actually do is to buy in a good location. So I know what you're probably thinking, Masud, like we could have thought of that ourselves, good location? Come on, bro. Well, to be honest, you'd be surprised how many investors just look at the prices and end up investing just because they see a cheap property and they say, oh my God, 70 grand, wow, I'll make that in a day. I'm gonna get that and just get the rent and I'm good. Well, to be honest, I've heard a lot of horror stories with that particular example, and what I frankly say to that is, it's probably, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is. So anyway, coming back to the point, buying in a good location, I think, is going to allow you to reduce your risk. And the way you actually go about doing that is, well, I backtrack and think, what is it that I want to achieve as an investor? Is it long-term rental income, or is it a high cash flow? So once I understand what my goal and objective is, I can then work towards what kind of property would fit that particular goal. So let's say I wanted to create a long-term rental income. I probably won't be looking at, letting any properties out to families within city centre apartments. So, because it doesn't really fit the model. So what I try and do maybe is like go a little bit further out of the city, maybe like a mile or two, and look for an area that's a little bit more quiet with good schools around and shops, and generally has a desirable feel to it. And that's where I'd look to maybe buy a property to actually let to a family as a buy-to-let. So I think, buying in a good location definitely means that there's low crime rates, good central links into town, good shops in the mean seas, good schools. You can check all of this on Rightmove and on Zoopla every time you're actually viewing a property. So it's easily accessible information which you can do. The other way to actually understand if the location is good or not is, of course, to speak to local people, speak to local investors, go out, actually visit the city that you're investing in and speak to the locals, maybe knock on a few doors if you're feeling confident. Why not? I think that many people won't mind you, to be honest, and they generally be open to helping you if you tell them what you're actually there for. The next way you can probably reduce your risk as a remote investor is to just get a good letting agent. Now, a good letting agent is probably worth their weight in gold. They'll basically be your eyes and ears at the property, and just imagine you spent a whole load of money on your refurb. You want your property to stay like that for as long as possible. And we know it's not going to stay like that for the long term, but why not, right? and your letting agent is probably going to be the best person to help you to do that. What I would say is, if you want to look for a good letting agent, perhaps speak to other investors again and get their recommendations. Another thing I'd say is, if you do get a letting agent, maybe also think about or consider having your own power team in that particular location. So that means like having like your own handyman or plumber or just tradesmen that can be available for particular repairs. A handyman is probably the best solution. Just because I have heard, this hasn't happened to me, but many people landlords being quoted super extortionate prices by letting agents for things, for like general repairs, which could be done in like, half the time and half the money by a handyman. So yeah, it definitely pays to network with people and just generally have a chat and be friendly, because they're probably going to be the only people who are going to be looking after your property, and you want good people really. So yeah, the last thing that you can actually do is actually just get good tenants. So good tenants are going to help you to have an easy life, because they probably take care of your property a lot more than the letting agent would even. So how do you actually get good tenants? Good tenants, you can actually ask your letting agent about their vetting process and add anything that you think doesn't meet your standards. And what I mean by that is, just have a look at how the letting agent checks the tenant's profile, their credit checks, any criminal convictions, what they do for their job and their income level. Can they actually sustain the amount of rent can they actually sustain paying the amount of rent that you're charging them? Of course, your letting agent does all this, but you want to be aware of everything as well. The other thing is, maybe just check what kind of job they have, because you want to make sure they're safe in like a downturn. So like a key worker or someone who works in a supermarket might be ideal. And lastly, the reason why you want to have good tenants is, I guess you can't ever predict how your tenant is going to be, because you can't ever predict people. People are just people, and they're unpredictable. So lastly, I'd say the legislation around evicting tenants, I think, is changing. I haven't ever had to do that, and I'm very early in the process, so hopefully I don't have to come to that. Touch wood that I never have to evict anyone, just because it looks like it's a very, very lengthy process, and the government or the legislation around it right now is all in favor for the tenant, and you don't want someone staying in a house which you own and not paying you rent, because you have to cover the mortgage, and it means that you're losing money. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video and you learned something new, guys. My voice is going, as you can see. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a like, comment down any thoughts you might have had, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.